passer à l'action, justement, il y a un point qui est important dans le livre, c'est que tout à coup, tu gagnes. Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Talking about action, there's a passage in the book où suddenly you start winning.
And after you know it's good. Et après tu t'arrives.
Yeah. Well,
so what happens?
I think for me it was a point in my life when I decided I wanted to run the biggest 100-mile race. I started finding, I think, a talent that I had that I didn't know existed, and I think. Okay, I'm sorry. Say if you want to translate.
C'est un moment où il a découvert ce talent qu'il ne connaissait pas en lui, et ça a été l'effet déclencheur.
And so I had pretty good success in my first 100-miler. I was second at the Angeles Crest 100, and then I thought, I need to go to the biggest race, the Western States 100 at that time. UTMB didn't even exist. And that was the place where if you wanted to test yourself, or if you wanted to run against the best runners, you went to the Western States 100. So at that point, it was one of those things where I want to test myself, but I also knew I had what it took. And I think something just clicked in my brain where I decided, okay, I want to be the best I can be, and I want to train, the hardest that I need to win this race and to see how far I could go. So it was a big point in my life where I went and followed my passion, and followed something that I had a talent for.
Il a découvert ce talent sur une course longue distance, et puis donc il s'est dit, ok, je pense que je suis prêt, et donc il a dit il fallait qu'il aille se tester sur la plus dure, c'est Western State.
Yes.
Et donc il s'est entraîné comme un malade, et il savait, il avait déjà l'avantage de savoir qu'il avait la capacité de gagner, et puis donc voilà, il est allé.
Yeah. And I think it's a good example of athletes decide to win a race before they even get to the starting line. And for me, I knew I wanted to win the Western States 100, and I kept thinking about that as I was training, as I was transitioning my diet. I put everything into it.
Une partie de son entraînement, c'était il savait déjà qu'il pouvait gagner cette course, et c'est déjà à moitié gagné quand on sait avant de partir qu'on va pour gagner.
Dans ton livre, tu parles bien évidemment aussi des Tarahumara et du moment où tu es invité par le fameux Caballo Blanco Nicatro pour partager la course des Tarahumara. Cette rencontre, toi, ça n'a pas été quelque chose de forcément évident au départ. Tu n'y croyais pas trop à ce côté les Indiens magiques qui courent sans fatigue.
Donc un passage of the book is when you meet with
c'est ce qui est raconté dans Banturan, dans le livre Banturan.
Tarahumara, the tribute, and you're going to meet with them and with the Caballo Blanco. But you are a bit, you're not sure what to think about this.
The first time, huh? So it changed.
Yes.
The first time.
Okay. And do you want me to describe, or you're going to read?
No, you can read it in English.
Okay. I'll read it in English. Okay. I'll read that.
Share, read and remember, it's 19.
Chapter 19. Okay. And yeah, this was, again, I'd always been interested in the Tarahumara, and they were a running people in a culture that I wanted to go and experience. So I was actually going on vacation and holiday, but Caballo Blanco had other plans of putting on this big competition. So this was, I went down to learn from the Tarahumara, and he wanted this big race.
Cette tribu l'avait toujours intrigué, les Tarahumara, et lui il était allé là-bas en vacances, mais le chef de la tribu, le Caballo Blanco, lui il avait d'autres, il a monté cette course, ce challenge, cette course avec Scott, donc voilà ses vacances.
Okay, and I wonder how many people have read Born to Run? Okay, so many people. I'll try not to spoil anything if you haven't, but I talk a little bit about some of the things that I experienced that weren't described in the book, and the very first part, first two paragraphs, right? Yeah. Okay. The email, and I describe Caballo Blanco. The first time meeting him was through the internet. So, the email had shown up on my screen in mid-2005. It was from someone named Caballo Blanco, which in Spanish means white horse. I learned later that Caballo had formerly been known as Micah True, and that he had been a boxer, itinerant furniture mover, and middle-distance running sage. But when he emailed me, all I knew is that he had been following my career and that he had a proposition. He lived in an adobe hut dug into the side of a deep, hidden canyon in Mexico. Nearby lived a group of indigenous Indians called the Raramuri running people, also known as the Tarahumara. He said that they were the greatest runners on earth. He wanted me to participate in an epic 50-mile race he had set in the canyon, one of the world's greatest runners, me, against the world's greatest runners in the Copper Canyon, with a prize of 1,000 pounds of corn and $750. This, in fact, was some of the most money I'd ever run for. So, believe it or not, I had to go all the way to Mexico for that. Yeah. I remembered the tribe. The Tarahumara were the middle-aged guys in togas who smoked cigarettes before the Angeles Crest 100 and couldn't run downhill. So earlier in the book, I just talk about my first interaction with Tarahumarans, and it was at the Angeles Crest 100, my first 100-miler. The greatest runners on earth? I didn't think so. I liked travel and I liked exploring different cultures, and the guys in the togas had always interested me. But the trip would have messed up my schedule. I was training for the Austin Marathon and running a 50-miler immediately after, and it didn't make sense. I didn't speak Spanish, and I didn't know how I'd get down there. Plus, it's not as if it was a big challenge. I'd already beat the Indians. So.
En fait, c'est ça. Alors, en français. L'email est apparu sur l'écran de mon ordinateur à la mi-2005. Il provenait d'un certain Caballo Blanco, ce qui signifie cheval blanc en espagnol. J'apprendrai par la suite que ce Caballo Blanco se faisait autrefois appeler mi-quatre-roues, qu'il avait été boxeur et déménageur itinérant, avant de devenir un esthète de la course de grand fond. Mais son message disait seulement qu'il suivait ma carrière de près et qu'il avait une proposition à me faire. Il vivait dans une hutte de terre sur le flanc d'un canyon abrupt perdu au fin fond du Mexique. Non loin vivaient les Indiens Raramuri, nom qui signifie peuple qui court, également appelé Tarahumara. Selon lui, c'étaient les meilleurs coureurs du monde. Il me proposait de relever un défi d'anthologie sur une course de 50 miles, 80 km, qu'il avait tracé dans ce canyon. L'un des meilleurs coureurs du monde, moi, contre les meilleurs coureurs du monde, eux, avec à la clé 1000 livres de maïs et $750. Je me souvenais de cette tribu, des types en pagne d'un certain âge que j'avais vu fumer au départ de l'Angeles Crest et qui se traînaient en descente, c'était les Tarahumara. J'avais du mal à croire qu'il s'agissait des meilleurs coureurs du monde. J'aime les voyages et les rencontres, et ces mecs en paille m'ont toujours intrigué, mais ça ne collait pas avec mon programme. Je préparais le marathon d'Austin, et courir un 50 miles immédiatement après n'avait pas de sens. Qui plus est, je ne parlais pas un mot d'espagnol, je ne savais pas comment aller là-bas, et ce défi n'était pas une nouveauté, j'avais déjà battu les Indiens.
And so I had no idea what kind of adventure I was going on, and I think that's one thing about adventure travel, and for me I wanted to explore this running culture. And little did I know I would have this, life-changing trip, riding on top of buses and doing all kinds of crazy things in the Copper Canyon with, these wild runners that I met, Jen Shelton and Billy Bonehead. And I think that's one thing about this sport is that you take yourself on adventures, and many of you have traveled from around the world for this race, UTMB, and you're going to have an adventure out there, and you got to be open to the possibility.
Il dit que il ne savait pas à quoi s'attendre à cette aventure, mais que c'est la beauté de la chose, c'est dans l'aventure qu'on ne sait jamais à quoi s'attendre, et puis en fait on découvre et on voyage sur le toit des bus, et on ne sait pas à quoi s'attendre, mais c'est ce qui nous fait vibrer, c'est ce qui nous fait des expériences par l'aventure.
Et la course de grand fond draine autour d'elle des personnages extraordinaires. Il y en a un certain nombre dans le livre, il y en a beaucoup dans Born to Run aussi, qui partent avec vous faire la course chez les Tarahumara d'ailleurs. Mais il y a ce Caballo Blanco, qui est quand même un personnage très particulier. Toi, tu as eu quelle relation avec lui? Quelles ont été tes relations?
So this long distance running brings quite some characters, and such as Caballo Blanco, and he wants to know, Christophe, asking what sort of experience you've had. What was the meeting with him? How was the...
Well, it's almost like you couldn't... so when people ask about Born to Run, they're like, did all that really happen? And it did, because Caballo Blanco was one of these individuals who you think he was out of a movie, or when I first met him, we didn't even know if he was going to be in the town we were meeting him. He was always mysterious, and I think Chris McDougall writes about it was very much that way, because when I wrote emails, I thought, is this guy for real? Like, sometimes he would be, you know, upset and write me back, like, you know, and then be like, oh, the race isn't happening, like, the day before the race. So he was always changing his mind, and, you know, but at the same time, everything happened, and it was a beautiful adventure. So I think ultra running does bring a colorful cast of characters. And Caballo Blanco was one of those people who had a big influence on my life, and also made a big influence on many people. Millions of people around the world have read the book, so it's pretty fascinating.
Avec Caballo Blanco, en fait, Born to Run, on se demande si c'était pas une fiction ou si ces choses vraiment étaient arrivées. Et puis effectivement, c'était arrivé, mais que Caballo Blanco, c'était un personnage de nulle part, où un peu le fantôme, il avait des sautes d'humeur, il envoyait des mails, il n'était pas content, et bien en fait c'était une expérience formidable, et ça s'est réellement passé, et que c'est ça, une fois de plus, l'ultra, la longue distance fait des rencontres, c'est l'aventure.
And yeah, having that race in the Copper Canyon, it's really influenced the people of the Copper Canyon, and he's touched a lot of lives, so it's amazing somebody's passion with one little race that, you know, basically 50 people started that first year has grown and changed, maybe, and then of course a best-selling book. So I think the lesson is to follow your passion, and Caballo was one of those individuals who was very passionate. Also, some people thought he was a little crazy at times, but he had such a passion for life and for running and the Tarahumara.
En fait, Caballo Blanco, c'était un passionné, et il a fait de très belles choses, parce que cette course qu'il a montée dans le canyon du cuivre, c'est ça, Copper Canyon, en fait, a grandi, et c'est un événement, et ça a changé beaucoup de choses dans la façon de penser sur des courses de longue distance très dures.
Et on peut quand même dire qu'il a eu un destin, malheureusement, il est devenu très célèbre grâce à Born to Run, et il est mort rapidement, il n'a pas pu savourer sa célébrité.
He said that unfortunately he became very famous very quickly with Born to Run, but he didn't savor his fame because he died shortly after.
Yeah. So it's very sad, but his story will live on, I think, and nobody would have known, or very few people would have known about Caballo Blanco if Born to Run wasn't written. And now I think he has his life is I guess, you know, out there for people to be inspired by, and I think it's a beautiful thing. As much as we wish he would have been on the earth longer, he influenced, I think, and will influence so many people.
C'est vrai que son histoire va marquer toute la vie beaucoup de gens, mais en fait, lui il est parti, mais c'est dommage que ça soit terminé comme ça, mais en fait ça va porter et influencer beaucoup de gens, et toute son histoire.
Dernière question, puis après je vous laisserai la parole, ça sera à vous de poser des questions. Dans Born to Run, Chris McDougall présente la course minimaliste, qu'on appelle en français la course minimaliste. Donc toi, tu en penses quoi? Tu es adepte de cette course? C'est comme ça que tu cours?
What do you think of minimalism?
Yeah, I always have worn a very light shoe in most of my racing. So even before Born to Run and minimalism and barefoot running became important, I think many runners too used to run barefoot on the inside of a track to warm up. So I think there were some of these things that were happening, but Born to Run made them more popular. And for me, I think the minimalism movement helped change our shoe, the shoe design, and maybe helped us think differently, which I think was very important. So people still have to find their best shoe for themselves.
Il a toujours, lui, même avant le minimalisme, il a toujours couru sur des semelles très fines, par choix, je pense, et que en fait ça a influencé le Born to Run, ça a un peu poussé le mouvement pour le minimalisme, et que ça a fait évoluer un peu les façons de courir de chacun, mais que ça reste quelque chose de personnel. Les gens doivent se retrouver de la façon dont ils veulent courir sur de la hauteur ou sur du fin, quoi, sur du...
And so for like the Appalachian Trail, I used a shoe that's kind of not super minimal, but not super cushioned, so it's in the middle, the pure grit. So I think more people are finding they can't get away with, you can't run barefoot in the mountains here, or you know, a very thin shoe for some people isn't going to work on the technical terrain. So I think the good thing is minimalism helped us maybe find a little bit lighter shoes, lower profile, and this is what the Pure Grit, which I've worked on. And some of the features of minimalism is something I worked on with Brooks for 10 years now. And the first Cascadia was actually fairly low and lightweight. And everyone said, oh, it's too lightweight, too lightweight. But it's interesting that perspective changed. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah.
Après, il y a aussi l'histoire de...
We can show you.
And now you see, and then on the other side you see like Hoka and shoes that are very cushioned. So I think it's good to, it shook up the industry and help people find out what works best for them. And a lower profile shoe is key for stability. And so that's something I think minimalism, you'll see that continue. How light people, I don't know. Barefoot running, obviously, in the mountains is very hard to do. So.
Ça fait partie de l'évolution, mais toujours est-il que courir en minimaliste ou en pieds nus en montagne, c'est pas possible. Il faut une certaine épaisseur, parce que bon, voilà, on ne peut pas courir pieds nus en montagne, mais que ça fait évoluer, il y a des changements, puis c'est personnel, quoi. Les gens, ça évolue, et c'est surtout aussi au niveau de la légèreté, du poids des matériaux, des chaussures, la torsion et puis le drop, ce qu'on appelle. Donc c'est de l'évolution dans la chaussure.
I think the balance, feeling enough of the trail, but having enough protection. It's like finding that balance.
Trouver l'équilibre entre pas trop peu, mais pas trop.
Mais il faut commencer doucement quand on débute avec le minimalisme. Il ne faut pas vouloir tout de suite faire des grosses distances, parce que l'homme actuellement n'est plus pas adapté à ce type de déplacement au quotidien.
Yeah, what he's saying is you have to also start gradually with minimalism, because you can really hurt yourself. It's
and this is what
completely different technique.
Yeah. For barefoot running too, many people were getting injured because they read Born to Run and they're like, okay, I want to be a Tarahumara. Even the Tarahumara use a sandal with protection. So everybody think they ask me, oh, the Tarahumara wear sandals? When you read the book, you think they all run barefoot. Yeah. So people would go out and run barefoot or in five fingers, which small amounts, like you said, is okay, and gradually transitioning. So for me, I do small amounts like on the infield of a track, or if I'm somewhere that has good grass or beach, but I'm not running 100 miles or 160K barefoot. And I think that's the balance. You have to start slowly, but also how much do you do?
Voilà, il faut un certain équilibre.
D'autres questions? Some questions?
No, I was going to ask you about, well, you used to run in the Green Silence, and that was, you had some say in the environmental shoe, and why did they not continue with those environmental?
Yeah, so we have elements, the Green Silence was a shoe that Brooks made that had more components that were in. So what they did is they brought some of the stuff from the uppers, the outsole, from that shoe into the other models. But the big thing with that shoe, I liked it also for how lightweight it was, low to the ground. So I wouldn't say they discontinued the green sustainable components. They brought it into the other shoes. But as far as discontinuing it, it was one of those shoes that some people loved it.
Well, not the discontinuation of that shoe, but the actual environmental parts of it, like the
yeah, so those, the components have continued in other models.
So they still use that environmental.
Exactly. So like, when you read about the different models, it'll say which ones have like the bio mogo, which is the bio midsole material, so in the midsole, and as well as the outsole has basically natural silica rubber versus a petroleum base. So they took components. So it was the flagship green shoe.
Not to bore people with the technical aspects of shoes, it could go on forever. But
but it's a statement, because people, it's a good question, because I have a hard time, like I like to wear my shoes until they fall apart, because I feel a shoe should stay, something that you could use for 500, 600 miles.
I'm going to send this to my daughter.
Yeah, exactly. It's your shoes. Scott Jurek color shoes. Yeah, pass them on.
Scott holding your shoe, honey.
But it is important because we throw away so many shoes. And there are companies and nonprofits that recycle the shoes to send them to other countries because a lot of times they aren't great for running, but people can walk.
I had a friend who used to put plants and flowers in his shoes. They had a whole garden or yard filled with shoes.
But it's a big issue. I think, to paraphrase in French, it's how we can make shoes more sustainable, maybe compostable so they break down. And that's the idea too, is that of these components, it takes many years, but if you put them in a landfill, they don't sit there for thousands of years. It's the idea to get them to break down in 20 years, 30 years, which is a big commitment.
But
so
people making the shoes, the whole chain.
Exactly. So it's a big issue, and it's good to see now more shoe companies are interested in sustainability, green elements. So I keep pushing Brooks to be, because it's an important thing, obviously. People love to run in the mountains, but if we keep throwing away shoes and polluting the earth, it's not really a sustainable. I don't know if you want to paraphrase in French, sorry.
Translator, you have 10 minutes.
Le sujet sur les chaussures fabriquées à base de produits environnement.
Des produits
biodégradables. Donc c'est de plus en plus de marques essayent de se concentrer sur ce sujet qui est d'actualité pour pas qu'on ait, parce qu'on utilise beaucoup de chaussures et pas que l'univers soit collé de chaussures qui se dégradent pas et voilà, qui restent, qui polluent quoi, en fait. Donc de plus en plus de marques de chaussures recherchent les produits biodégradables dans les components.
Ouais. Puis ils envoient aussi dans des pays réutilisés.
Voilà, que même si une paire de chaussures, elle a fait 6 km et qu'elle est plus bonne pour courir, mais elle est bien assez bonne pour quelqu'un d'autre pour marcher, donc la donner et voilà, faire la suite. Bien gérer la fin de vie d'une chaussure.
On pourrait aussi donner des chaussures qu'ils ont polluées.
Oui, on peut aussi. On peut.
Another question.
Well, it's kind of around the shoe, but it's kind of around also the environment and stuff. And I know you've been here before. You've gone around the mountain, and we're here going around the mountain right now. And I've been here a couple of years before, and just all the glaciers. You know how dramatic the retreat is. I mean, I was just coming from Valorisine up here, and just seeing like the Mer de Glace is so it's just, you know, I think it's kind of those wake-up moments for humanity too, but I think it's so great that like trail races, people get out there and they actually see these things. You know, it's not just some documentary you're seeing it maybe. So I think also, I live in France, but as an American, you know, you're the kind of whole debate about people getting out on the trails or using the trails with your AT thing and that kind of. So it just seems like, you know, the more people can get out and actually see for themselves the effects that we're having on nature.
Que c'est bien que les traders voient d'eux-mêmes la fonte des glaciers, l'environnement, le réchauffement de la planète et qu'on se rende compte de ce qui se passe en traversant, en passant les chemins et c'est quand même bien triste.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I've always been a believer, I mentioned in the video too, the more people that can see the wild places, maybe they don't have to race, maybe they don't have to do an ultra trail race, but just to get out there and see it for their own eyes or experience our connection. So I always am a believer. In Europe, I think they're more open to having bigger events, and you know, the use and the management of the land is differently. In the US, we want to seem to protect it, but I don't feel like enough people are getting out exploring, and less children are, you know, going out in the woods and the mountains. And so I think it is our duty to encourage more use, and I think you can do that responsibly. In the US, we have very restrictive rules and regulations, so there's a lot of debate about should we let more people use the wilderness or should we keep it wild? And like you said, the glaciers are melting. Other things are happening that aren't an issue of people getting in the wilderness. So I think it's a fine balance of responsibly, you know, bringing more people and impact, and how can we do that? So.
And I think you kind of did a lot to start that debate. To,
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's an important question, and it's a lot harder. I mean, for me, I'm always blown away when you see it firsthand, when you see the glaciers melting. It's a wake-up call. Yeah, it has more of an impact, I think. And a documentary can do amazing things too, but we need to encourage, I think, people to explore.
On a besoin d'encourager les gens à explorer, à voir ce qui se passe. Et aussi, c'est difficile de faire la part des choses quand on voit ces courses où il y a 7000 personnes qui courent, mais à côté de ça, c'est bien que les gens s'en rendent compte. Donc c'est le juste milieu de savoir, aux États-Unis, ils ont beaucoup plus de bâtons dans les roues, c'est-à-dire qu'ils modèrent le nombre de coureurs, mais en fait c'est aussi bien que les gens se rendent compte d'eux-mêmes. Ça donne un peu l'awareness.
Awareness.
To
make people more aware.
La sensibilisation.
La sensibilisation, voilà.
Et
en utilisant, en étant plus proche des événements et de ce qui se passe dans la nature, qu'on va réagir et se rendre compte. D'un côté, il faut essayer de limiter, mais d'un autre côté, c'est bien que le maximum de personnes soient proches de ces phénomènes pour réagir.
Aux États-Unis, dans les parcs nationaux, la protection elle est même parfois un peu extrême, hein, parce que tu as eu un petit souci avec du champagne, je crois.
Exactly. Yeah. In France, they would laugh because they would encourage it. Yeah.
I'm not sure everybody knows this story.
No, maybe.
Il y a une histoire incroyable qui est arrivée à la fin de son grande traversée des Appalaches.
Yeah. And in the U.S., it's just one park, but it's an example, I think, of what you're saying, where what is the balance of use and impact, and so it created a debate. So I think that's the thing. But then when Tommy Caldwell and Kyle Jorgensen, they basically had done the Don Wall, and they had 2 bottles of champagne on the top of El Capitan, which is a national park, and nobody said anything. But when I was in a small state park in Maine, it was like a big deal. So it varies, I think, how much protection and the rules, but
the rangers couldn't climb up there.
But they celebrated. Yeah, they had a press conference and everything. So yeah, it's different attitudes. I think it's an example of one park, Yosemite National Park, and Baxter State Park in Maine, and each one has their own
règles différentes pour certains parcs nationaux.
Et on peut résumer donc le petit souci. Tu connais l'histoire?
Donc en gros, il a fêté son arrivée avec le champagne, et les rangers, les gardes forestiers lui
ont mis une amende parce qu'il avait consommé de l'alcool dans un parc national. Et 2, après, il avait fait tomber de l'alcool par terre, donc il avait pollué les sols. Et 3, il avait donné à manger aux animaux. Il avait bu le champagne. Enfin bon, on rigole, mais c'était de cet ordre-là.
C'est pas donné à les animaux, je pense que c'était un groupe plus que 12%. Vous êtes 3e. C'était pour avoir un groupe, mais c'est pas partie des... Il peut expliquer, mais ils sont partis parce qu'ils ont des spectateurs et des personnes qui sont là pour monter et pour voir qu'est-ce qui se passe. C'est ça. Mais il avait le permis pour 12%. So just so you had...
Yeah. Many people, following and excited, which I think is a good thing, It was only 50 people on the mountain, and some people weren't there for my finish. They were there for their own hike, but they wanted to stay and watch. So to me, I think in other cultures, other countries, they kind of laugh, like champagne is littering, the little bit of spilling champagne or the group size. But in the U.S., I think, so it's brought a good question, which unfortunately, I was the one who started that.
Expliquer aux rangers que le champagne est plus sain pour le corps que le Coca-Cola.
Explain to the rangers that champagne is better than Coke.
Was Dusty disgusted it was champagne?
No, he said, "I'm proud of you." Like, I'm proud of you.
Dusty était là, il était fier.
Dusty a dit qu'il était fier de lui. Une dernière question, parce que c'est
yeah, I was interested in the film, obviously, showing you practicing yoga and talking a bit about the mental side. would be good just to hear a bit more about whether it's yoga or other things you do, how they help you in racing and in training, and I guess, you know, more generally in sort of dealing with life.
Yeah, how the other things, other types of training, like
mental practices,
mental work.
Je voudrais savoir s'il y a d'autres choses à part le yoga, l'entraînement, dans la vie courante qui génère ces préparations pour la course.
And for me, like, I never thought I would be doing yoga. Like, I grew up Minnesota hunting and fishing boy, so like yoga was for, you know, people that were totally different than me. And then things like too, like meditation, and by going to yoga classes and being influenced by yoga, I did a lot with breath. And so when I spoke in the video about using breath, like sometimes when I'm fatigued and, you know, everyone's been there where your muscles are hurting, sometimes I try to focus on things to keep me in the present moment. So that's where breath has been helpful. We're just tuning into how I'm breathing, whether I actually, you know, count the amount I inhale, exhale. When I was on the Appalachian Trail, Jenny jokes because, yeah, everybody said I sounded like a horse. I had horse lips, but sometimes I breathe where I'm like, just focus on like breathing out like that. It just like takes my mind off of like the pain that I'm having. And so I think it can be super helpful, and much like, you know, meditation, breath work, any way of, I guess, not controlling the mind, but freeing the mind of the constant doubt or the feeling like it's too far, my legs hurt, it's too hot out. So when you're in the race, find ways to stay motivated on Friday, Saturday, because your mind will always want to tell you, stop, slow down. So I think for me it's been very important to have other things more than just training and racing. Sorry, it's a word.
Non, en gros, pour lui, il pensait que c'était pas pour lui le yoga, la méditation, toutes ces choses-là. Il disait que c'était pour les autres, mais pas pour lui. Et puis petit à petit, en y venant, il s'est aperçu que ça l'aidait beaucoup dans la concentration, pour la respiration, et aussi, surtout en course, quand il essayait de déconcentrer sa tête, quoi, son esprit par la respiration, et ça l'aidait à sortir d'une concentration totale et de passer les mauvais moments. Et donc ça a beaucoup, il pense que ça joue beaucoup pour lui, la méditation et le yoga.
In preparation and physical running and training, it's important, strength, but there are times where you can be the best prepared runner, and if your mind isn't strong in the race, that's where ultras, they say, there's a saying that it's they're 90% mental and the other 10% is mental too. So it's a lot in your head, as many of you know. It's you have to have the legs, you have to have the heart and lungs, but a lot of it is in the mind and even beyond the mind. You have to go beyond.
C'est hyper important, la tête, parce que le moral, parce qu'on dit qu'on a beau être prêt physiquement, mais dans une course d'ultra, il y a un saying qui dit que c'est 90% dans la tête et 10% dans la tête. Donc c'est hyper important d'être bien dans sa tête pour réussir.
The definition of ultra is to go beyond, and I think, you know, we go beyond the body, the mind, and find that strength. So.
La définition de l'ultra, c'est le surpassement, au-delà des limites.
Je peux mettre une
dernière question.
Alors, est-ce qu'il a une réponse sur le fait que les coureurs américains ont du mal à s'imposer pour le moment sur l'ITMB, alors que quelques coureurs européens, je pense à Kylian Jornet, Sébastien Chéniaud, François Den, eux ont réussi déjà sur des grandes courses aux États-Unis. Est-ce que c'est l'esprit trail qui est différent entre l'Europe et les États-Unis qui fait que...
Do you have, can you say, do you know why the Americans are struggling at UTMB?
It's always the big question.
And why Europeans are succeeding in the States?
Yeah.
No fast food.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't have our McDonald's here now. That's not true. There's McDonald's here. It's a very good question. Every time I have many people ask this question, and I always try to think to myself why. Because the American women have done very well at UTMB. I don't know. It must be a curse on the men because. You know, Nikki Kimball, Chrissy Mail, Rory Bazio, I mean, they've all done very well. So, like, the American women are doing great, but the men, I think, I don't know, like, maybe it's the atmosphere and the pressure in the competition is so great here, but we also have very big competition in the U.S. So I don't know, or maybe sometimes I've thought at UTMB, it's also the weather is interesting because it's the humidity is actually quite high, but you don't feel it. It's cool enough, and I think some of the top Americans have become dehydrated. I know in my I've kept that. When I've raced, I felt like that wasn't what did it for me, but I know for some athletes they didn't realize how dehydrated their stomach had problems, and I think maybe it's the dehydration because it's cool enough, but it's not hot and humid. Like in the U.S., we have the humidity, but it's usually hot. And I think here, maybe the temperature, the weather, yeah, I don't know what it is. Or maybe it's the curse of the mountains and the Alps. But it's fascinating because we can compete against the Europeans in the U.S., maybe Asia. But I don't know what it is. Yeah. Maybe this year.
Next year for you?
Maybe. And maybe this year, you know, we have Sage Kennedy, his first 100-miler. Rob Carr is not racing this year, but we keep trying, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Merci.
Yeah.
Merci Scott.
Merci.
Alors voilà.
Tomorrow for those of you racing tomorrow, yeah.
Merci à tous et
And beautiful weather. That sounds like.
Yeah.
Maybe no rain this year. Yeah.